There's something about co-op games. Well, there's something about a lot of co-op games being available to the Nintendo Switch very recently. It's only been about a week since I last did a review of a co-op game, and here we are again. Today's game, I got interested because of how it looks and what it was about. A beautifully colorful platformer starring two characters that fall in love. And that's all I needed to look into this game so I could play and cover it. Here is my review of the co-op Metroidvania platformer, Degrees of Separation. This story is centered around two lonely people from different kingdoms. Ember from a world filled with warmth and fire, and Rime from a kingdom filled with cold and ice. The two of them awaken and meet each other traveling the same path, but at the same time worlds apart, separated by a magical barrier that keeps each of their sides of the world their own world. Being able to travel together but not touch each other, they head to the ruins of an old castle using their own world elements to their advantage, so they can discover the secrets behind it as they slowly develop a fondness for each other's presence. This game's story feels very cute and right out of a fairy tale. It even reminds me a little bit of Child of Light, because you got a narrator weaving the story in whenever you get to a new area, telling the tale of all the areas you're exploring and also showing Ember and Rime's growing relationship. I love these sort of narrated tales, and it really just fits in with the colorful and beautiful style of the game. When it comes to gameplay, this is a co-op themed Metroidvania title. You've got two characters that you're going to go around with, and you're constantly going through a side-scrolling environment, back and forth, opening up new paths to new worlds. And on the topic of co-op, you can play this game single player, local multiplayer, and in a future update, online multiplayer. And just to reiterate that, the online multiplayer is not available yet, but it will be in a future patch. When it comes to progression in this game, it's pretty simple to basically think of this as a collectathon game. There are black scarves littered all around the map in this game, each centered around an area that acts as a puzzle for you to solve so you can get up to the scarf and claim it. The game is also divided up in different worlds and areas. In order to open up doors to new worlds, you have to collect that number of scarves from previous areas. Actually getting those scarves is where the uniqueness and the fun comes out of this game. You're constantly controlling Ember and Rime as they trek through all these areas, and each character's side of the map is their own world that affects the environment in different ways. Rime's world of ice and cold will freeze water so he can walk on top of it, whereas Ember's warm and light-filled world will activate certain mechanisms that require sunlight. The idea behind the puzzles is that you've constantly got this divide between the two worlds, and you've got to use both characters to manipulate the environment so that one or both of them can reach the scarf and claim it. This starts off pretty simple, but very quickly becomes more intricate and precise. These are not platforming challenges that you can look at once and immediately know what to do. A lot of them had me a little puzzled and just standing looking at the environment for a while before I finally realized what combination of actions I needed to do to solve it. Some worlds also have special tools exclusive to that world that make things a little bit easier. For example, you get a pair of staves in one world that lets you create a light bridge on the border between the two worlds, letting you essentially make new platforms for yourself to go up and get the scarves. Unfortunately, these are exclusive to the one world where you get them. Once you leave that world, you no longer have the staves, which is one thing I was really disappointed in. A lot of times in these games, you constantly get new upgrades and new tools that you take throughout the rest of the game to make things easier and help you reach new heights. And going into a world getting a new tool and losing it the moment you leave really ruins that feeling and sense of progression. It almost feels like as soon as you leave, you take a step backwards instead of a step forward. One thing I will say about this game is that it felt like it was going to be a short experience, and it was anything but. When I was trekking through my first hour of Degrees of Separation, I was sure it was going to be one of those beautiful, visually stunning indie games that barely lasted an hour or two. By the time I'd actually reached the final area and ending of the game, I'd been playing for well over 10 hours. It's got a lot of content here that really makes it stand out. And now let's get into that beautiful presentation. Everything here looks extremely colorful, it's got a lot of lighting effects, and there's just a huge amount of detail, whether it's from the environments, how the characters' costumes move, or the fact that there's a lot of detail in the audio with both the narrator and the fact that the characters do have little voice clips as they're jumping around and calling each other. Now, when you take the game into handheld mode and the resolution decreases, the character models do look significantly blurry. The environments still look beautiful, but it's a bit of a blemish on an otherwise beautiful looking game. I don't have anything to say about performance and never saw the frames drop, never had it crash on me or anything, so let's go right into battery life, which isn't exactly what I was expecting. Considering how this game looks in its 2D nature, I was expecting quite a bit of battery life. But Degrees of Separation has a battery range of 2 hours and 21 minutes on high settings, up to 3 hours and 39 minutes on low settings. Granted, this is still perfectly acceptable, but I was expecting this to be more in the 3 to 5 hour range rather than the 2 to 4 hour range. Now, in conclusion, Degrees of Separation combines a beautiful world with a beautiful story filled with love and a lot of narration. Now, the downside, new tools being exclusive to certain areas kind of hinders the feeling of progression, and the blurry character models in handheld mode do take a bit away from the style of this world. But if you can look past that blurriness in handheld mode, this is a heartwarming adventure that any fan of platformers and Metroidvania should definitely check out. Reviews to Go rates Degrees of Separation for the Nintendo Switch a 9 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below or head to the website at reviewstogo.com.